It's one thing to generate a ton of income, but if you're not running it as a profitable business, then obviously there's no point in doing it.
Oh my goodness, what a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with the community here at eXp Realty. We are so excited you guys have joined us. And today we are talking about numbers, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to learn about how numbers impact our business. Which numbers should we be tracking? What are KPIs? How do we use this information instead of just knowing something? How do we make it actionable so that it can affect our behaviors and we can increase our business, our efficiency, our profitability, all sorts of things. This is a really powerful session, and I'm glad we have a top coach, Scott Gephart, here, who's going to come in. He's been teaching this. He's coached with Eisenhower Coaching, built his own team, owned brokerages. He's done it all, guys, which is great. So Scott's going to be talking through that, and he invited one of his friends and a dear industry colleague, Calvin Mergen, who's also CEO of a company called CTE, and they build software that actually also does this. So we're going to expose you to that today so you can be aware of that. You can do this on your own with spreadsheets. There's all sorts of ways to be able to do this, but we're going to get down into the nitty gritty today. Like, what does it mean when people say you should know your numbers? That's so vague. So we want to kind of clarify on that. Scott, I'm going to bring you up first so you can kind of introduce your guests and talk a little bit about what we are up to today, my man. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you giving back to the community. Let me get you unmuted there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. I mean, to me, the numbers part of this business is not as boring as it sounds. It's pretty much every single thing we do every day. It's because it includes time, right? Keeping track of your time and what you're actually doing with your time. It's keeping track of your money. It's keeping track of your team members. It's every little piece of it has something to do with a number. So how I looked at it is I'm pretty detailed about it. I've actually used the system that Calvin created. So I figured no better person to get on here to kind of give us a demo and a once over of what that system's like. I've used it for 4 years, I think now. I love it. And it keeps me accountable. It keeps me knowing all my numbers. I can tell you exactly how much each client cost me at close, how much there's just so many things that I feel like you just have to know in this business. And it's not difficult. Like these systems, whether, like Jeff said, you can keep it on a piece of paper if you want. You can keep it in a really detailed system where you just plug in something and then it does the rest for you. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But it's crucially important, and it gives you confidence, like you know where your business is at. Because like there's activity-based stuff and then there's results-based stuff. So right, we tend to focus too much on the results-based stuff and not as much on the activities-based things. But you can kind of keep track of both. By having tools to measure it, you can keep up and know what's coming, which I love. So I'll put them in my system and I can see my potential profits coming or what I have in the bank and how many buyer agents I have, or not buyer agents, but how many buyers I have I feel that are active if I could write a contract with. And it's cool because most people don't realize, I don't think, like it's like how many dollars is sitting there, right? It's like you can kind of see it and you can weigh it. So you can avoid the whole roller coaster that way by knowing, because if you start seeing like your future projections that are coming up or looking bad, you better get back to the activities-based stuff and quit worrying about the results-based stuff. And I find that, I mean, you set a goal and that goal is a number usually. It's great, but you can't, then it's like that's in a system, but you don't focus or worry about that goal at all. You worry about the things that are going to get you to the goal on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, yearly, all of that. But anyways, what I kind of had planned for this, I have a ton of information. It's probably more than I could spew out to you in an hour and a half. But I really was excited to have Calvin come on. So I want to have him kind of go through that whole system. It'll really show you all the little possibilities that can be done and the numbers that are important and how it works. And then when he's all wrapped up, he can answer some questions for you guys and then basically head out. And then I can go deeper and answer questions and just kind of get it sparked from there. And then feel free, after that to ask away. I like the fact that I like to get everybody's thoughts or ideas out or their positives, negatives, what they think about it, and I can help with it.
I love that. Well, Calvin, are you able to hear us? Are you there?
I am. Yep. Are you able to hear me?
The man in command. I love it. Well, yeah, and we can see your screen perfectly.
Okay. Perfect. I mean, you guys could set it up better. I mean, obviously, Jeff, knowing those numbers is so crucial, especially in today's market when when markets are great, people don't really track anything because money's coming in and they're happy. But when markets shift, then it becomes extremely crucial to know those numbers, those key indicators that are driving your business. Find weak spots in your business, not just what you're great at, but find where you're making mistakes. And if you're not tracking your numbers and you don't know some of your conversion rates, you're really losing a lot of revenue or income that you don't know you're missing unless you're tracking those numbers. So it becomes so important to have that, especially in today's market with stuff shifting. I'm just going to jump through some screenshots here. Basically, we've got a platform here that tracks all of this for you. And the only thing you really have to do in our system is input your contracts and then your lead gen KPIs. That's the only thing you have to do. Everything else is going to automatically generate inside of this system. This is just a simple dashboard here showing me my closed units for the year, my closed volume, closed income, and then also shows my projections. Like Scott had talked about how important it is to know your future months revenues coming in. So I can see my projections as well. So this is just a screenshot of a particular time of the year, but I can see what's coming in September, October, November for volume, for income. All of that is a visual dashboard that I have inside of this system. And then it also tracks all of my progress of all of my goals as well. So I set my goals for the year. How am I progressing on each one of those? So I can see all of that. All of my average listing sale price, your listing commission percentage, knowing all of those, because if those start to dip, if the market shifts, then we're going to have to do more activities because we're going to have to generate more sales because our commissions are dropping a little bit. But this will track all of that. And then it also has it all on your phone. So you have the ability to, at any moment, just pull it right up on your phone. And I'll kind of go through a little screenshot of that. So I can see all of my active listings. We can also track active buyers. So when you sign a buyer under buyer brokerage or buyer representation, whatever you call it, you can put them into the system and see what you have as a pipeline of business. Then I can also see all my pending transactions and my closed transactions for the year right on my phone. It'll also break it all up by where is your revenue coming from: listing income, buyer income, referral income, lease, transaction fee, bonuses, others. And then it also tracks your profitability, because it's one thing to generate a ton of income, but if you're not running it as a profitable business, then obviously there's no point in doing it. So you can see your profitability here as well. Shows you how much is going up to cost of sales, to your team members, to your brokerage, referral fees, your expenses, and then what is your actual profit. So at any moment you can see the profitability of your business. So, and I doubt a lot of real estate agents know how profitable they are right now in their business. Within this system, you have that capability. The other thing that's so powerful about this is to know what's coming up in your business, because we can't just close a house and get paid on it today. It usually takes 30, 60, 90 days. In this system, you can see what your cash flow looks like for the next 90 days, not just your GCI, but how much money are you going to be putting into your bank account based off of your splits and paying out team members or anything like that. All of your cost of sales are factored in. So I can see all of my future months being built out. So everything I'm doing today is affecting my future months, and I can see that live updating. And it just gives you that ability to say, hey, instead of using your bank account as your gauge, you can actually see the numbers before it happens. So you can hopefully don't get yourself into a pinch where it's like, okay, I didn't have any revenue for 3 months, but you would have seen that with inside of the system, and you'd have been able to change your activities to get those results. Also, we'll track all of your KPIs on your phone. You can toggle it any time frame you want to look at, from appointments, set, held, signed, and has all of those numbers right there for you. Also tracks your progression to your goals for income, volume. It does units as well, but all of that right at your fingertips on your phone. Another report it's called the CEO board. Extremely powerful little report here that allows you to see your entire year. So I can look at January. What did we do? How many units? What was our volume? The GCI? What was our cost of sales, and what percentage of our business went out to cost of sales? What was our net GCI that we made, our expenses, and then our profitability? And I can see that for every month, and then also my future months. You can see how they're kind of grayed out on here. In this example, it's April. I can see what's going on this month. And then what's next month look like? What's June, July look like? So I can see all of what happened, what's currently happening, and what is happening in my future of my business on one report. And this is on your phone as well. So extremely powerful information to know and really run your business like a CEO would run their business. I'm going to jump past this one. So one thing I didn't touch on this report is it also shows, like, if you're looking at your average listing sale price, mine is 281,000. It will show me throughout the year what it was. So I can see how this is trending. Same with my commission rates, my buyer sale price. So are these things starting to go down? Or are they going up? All of this is right there at my fingertips to look at in my business. Well, the income breakdown here, all of your lead sources are tracked here as well. So I can see my top lead sources. Where is my business coming from? Right now, I have 50 from past clients, and we have more detail on this as well, which I'll show you, but this just gives you a snapshot. Shows me my closed units, my income, my volume, all of that right here. It also shows this year versus last year, so I can see all of that information. One other thing that we do is, this is just kind of a chart here, my average listing sale price this year versus last year. I can see that, and I can see the entire year, and all of these metrics, average listing commission, etc. We also look at multi-year trends of your business as well. So this is a 5-year snapshot of your business in units, volume, and income. So not only is my business growing month over month, but is it growing year over year? How am I really building a business here? Because if you look at how many agents fail in this industry, I think it's like 87% fail within the first 5 years. And a lot of that is they don't know their numbers. They don't treat it like a business. And really knowing your numbers and seeing your business grow with this is a great report to look at, to be able to look at your past 5 years of your business. If you're running a team, we do have customized leaderboards, so you can see who's doing what on the team in any category you want to look at. This is all customizable. You can choose any categories you want on this report, but you can who's put the most listings under contract. I can quickly pull that up. I can change the time frame on this. So if I want to look at rewards for last month, I can quickly pull all of that information up. But all of that right there at your fingertips. We also have customizable contests. So if you want to have, all right, let's have a contest for the month, who's can set the most listing appointments or listing appointments held, and it'll go in and grab all of that data and show you who's leading in these reports. So if you're running a team, it is extremely powerful in pulling all of that data together for you. And then Scott talked about this, and this is so powerful, is to know where your business is coming from. So your lead sources. So we are going to take your top lead sources in a chart up on top listing lead sources. Where's my business coming from for listings, and then buyers. But then we really break it down here. So I can see sphere of influence is 24% of my leads. My business is coming from my sphere. I've sold 49 houses. I've closed 773,000 in GCI. My net for that is 627,000 because I obviously had expenses tied to it, or if I had cost of sales tied to it, is what's affecting that net. Also shows me how much volume I've got from that sphere of influence. Shows me what I currently have pending with that. So not only what did I close, but do I still have business coming in from that lead source, or is it no longer generating business for me? So it shows me what I have pending, what I have active as well. So if I have active listings under sphere of influence or active buyers, it'll pull that in here. Shows me my average commission, my average sale price on all of my lead sources. And it also shows throughout the entire year when I made revenue through that lead source. So I can see if that lead source is truly still working in my business or no longer working. But when you're building a business, knowing your lead sources and where your business is coming from is step number one. You have to know that to build a successful business, because those are the wells you're going to keep going back to generate more business. And if you don't know where it's coming from and what's working, what's not working, you could be wasting your time on a certain lead source that's not generating anything for you. So this report right here is extremely important on knowing those lead sources. Let's see. The other thing that we have in here, which I don't want to go too in depth on all of this stuff, but we do have a full financial statement inside the system. So a lot of realtors love this because they can just print this off at the end of the year and hand it to their accountant. So it'll have all of their financial information. lead gen KPI tracking from contacts to appointments to all of those KPIs are being tracked inside of the system. Transaction checklist. So if you're managing your checklist of when you take a listing or when you put a property under contract, all the steps that you do to make sure that that goes smoothly for the client is built into the system as well. Sold board contests, which we talked on. Team members have the capability to log in and see limited access. Year over year and multi-year trends. You can customize reports, custom leaderboards. We also track all of your vendors as well. So for your title companies and your mortgage companies, it'll track all of that and build out a report for that. So that was, I tried to make it quick. I don't want to go too long here. So a quick little rundown of what this system does. And like you guys had said earlier, it's not about using this system. It's about find a system that works for you. If it's working in Google Docs or just tracking your data, your numbers has to be done on some level, on some system somewhere. This is an option. Obviously it is, but just make sure that you're doing it because it will definitely increase your profitability and your production in your business. All right. And I can spin it back to you guys if you guys have anything else to add in on that or.
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead, Scott.
I have one thing. I don't know if you could show or I could do it on mine. Just the lead gen side of it a little bit, because I think that's something that I'm going to talk about a lot today. So I think I'd like to see your version of it. And,
Calvin, while you're grabbing that, I'll just mention kind of from my own background. I've used this program and I love it. We're not here to pitch it today, guys. Definitely, and I want everyone to understand, like, do this on your own. If you're a spreadsheets wizard, that's awesome, man. You could probably get to the same end zone. Just take you a little bit of programming time to get it all set up. But I will say, what I loved about it is it was there ready for me. I don't remember. I was, as a solo, I think it was like $20 or $40 for a team or something like that. So, like it's an appropriate price point. But what's nice is it's not acceptable, in my opinion, to be a professional in this industry. And when somebody says, "What was your GCI last year?" you say, "Well, I think it was about," that's not an answer. Like the reality is, and by the way, nobody sells, I think, around 12 houses. Was it 12? Was it 13? Was it 14? Like, what was the number? Or hopefully a lot more than that, maybe per month. And so the reality is this really helped empower us a lot and have like clean metrics against our team members to understand what was moving. And so, like we said, we're not here to pitch. However, just get out there and take a look at something so you can understand this is what I need to be tracking. And what I also love about a piece of software like this, or there's other types of things out there that can do this for you, but is it will actually tell you, here's the industry standard metrics that you should be tracking for leading indicators and lagging indicators, for all the metrics that are going to be important in your business. If you're newer to the industry or newer to tracking your numbers, you might not even know, what am I supposed to be tracking, right? It's like when I started working out, I didn't know what body mass index was. I don't know. Nobody ever taught me that. My family we're kind of big, so like we didn't talk about BMI. So this will help you to understand what those KPIs are. And I think that's really important.
Scott, do you want me to share my screen on that?
Yeah, if you want to. I'd like to show that because I'm definitely going to talk a lot about that, and I can show them mine as well.
Okay.
To me, it's
so I've got the KPI report up. Is that the one you want, or the actual log? Yeah. So this is this is just a demo account here, but this is looking at we track, and you can customize these categories too, but from dials, contacts, nurtures, which is leads you're nurturing, to listing appointments set, held, signed, buyer appointments set, held, signed. So I can see my entire team, or if I'm an individual, I just see my numbers on here. I can look at this year, I can toggle it to any different time frame, but I can see what's going on, what are my team members doing inside of because without these activities, nothing else is really going to matter. You're not going to have contracts. So if we don't monitor this on a daily, weekly basis, nothing else in our business is going to matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I can kind of go with it because I have, mine I could show also, and get a little deeper on it. But I just wanted to show that's something that I think, like I said in the beginning, to me, that kind of stuff is the most important part. It's
honestly,
what you do to your business.
Yeah. So with the shift in the market over the last year and a half or two, we have noticed, because some people abandoned tracking those KPIs when things were just so good, they were just doing business, so they weren't tracking them. It's amazing how many people have gone back to tracking those. Like, all right, we got to get back to the basics here, because we've got to do our lead generation because the things aren't just coming in like they were 2, 3 years ago. So, it's definitely something that's very, very relevant right now.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Calvin, so much. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you were out of town and you took to come here and do this, so I really appreciate it. I thought it was just going to be, because I use this system a ton myself, and like I said, it just, whatever people have, it needs to work, but this is just a good indicator and can talk about the things that are important to track and that you should be paying attention to. And this is an organized way to show everybody kind of what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Thanks for running us through it, Calvin. Really appreciate it. We'll post that link again here in the chat and also in the replay so everyone has it. G-Team, I see that you have your hand up.
I'm going to ask a question that was, hopefully this won't be a bad question. But when Calvin, when you were showing your month, the month calendar, and that glaring number on January was that your costs were $200,000 and your profit was -27. Can we address that, please?
I love that you spotted that, because that's, I should take that off of my demo, my little screenshots here and make it profitable. But I have it on there as a reason, because some people don't know that we made 230,000 in GCI, but our profitability was some $37,000 in the hole. So to be able to see that and be like, whoa, we do need to address that. What happened? Why did we do all that work to lose $37,000?
So what is the answer? Like, how would you possibly spend $200,000 in January on cost of sales? I don't get that.
Let me go back to that screenshot here. Let me see exactly what those numbers were. So cost of sales. So 200,000 is definitely high on this, because that's at 57%, and kind of the benchmark would be about 30% would be kind of, you're hitting the ceiling. So we're at 57. So we're paying out, and we can go to the financial statement and it'll tell us exactly the detail on this and why that's 201,000, why we're at almost 60% of our business went out the door before we even, got our check. And I don't know exactly in this because it was a demo account. I took some screenshots of it, but it's either we're paying our team members way too much. We had some referral fees that were extremely high, but that would definitely be, as a coaching thing, let's dive in and look at that. And if I had a live account here, we could go right in there and look at those numbers, what's causing that. But I'm glad you caught that, because that is way high. And honestly, if you look at the business in all of these months, it's almost 60% of my business is going out to cost of sales. So that is a huge error in how my business is set up right now that I need to look at and figure out. Because that should not be at 60%. That's extremely high.
And Calvin, I'm guessing that's representational of the GCI on the property, the closed property. Team splits are coming off. And so if that's a 50% split, that's a 50% cost of sales, correct?
Yeah. So either me as a lead agent, I didn't close any properties that month, and virtually all the closings were team members and they were getting their 50% split. So that's definitely something that but it's happening every single month. So me as a lead agent sounds like I'm getting lazy and I'm letting all my business done by the team members.
Got it. Does that help, Joanne?
And
yes, thank you.
That's something too, Joanne. I can tell you right now, from coaching a lot of top teams, that's not abnormal at all. That's why you have these systems. I can tell you, well, I know of many teams that, especially in somewhere along in their history, where it wasn't just 1 month that looked like that. I guarantee you right now, in what's going on, there's a lot of teams that have that issue going on in those months. And that's part of why this thing, a system is so powerful, or why you need to see those things. It makes you aware. It changes your whole mentality. To me, I like stats and like to know where things are at. So for me, I'm more of one of those, if something's going really well and going in the right direction, then that gets me excited. It's not like, oh, sweet, I got 5 closings this month, I can chill. It's the exact opposite. It's like, holy crap, I'm like that much closer to growing far higher, right? So it's like, when I see positive results, it's unbelievable. Or especially like when you see in the, in all the activity-based indicators, I call them, it's like when really track all that and know what's happening. It's like you can know how long it takes to get an appointment. I personally just did something that was really cool, and it tracking like where we had set so many appointments for the last year and a half, like 22 and 23, tons of appointments. And, at my fault, I'll admit, I did not do a very good job of following up with all the lead appointments that I had set to my calendar. That was my problem. I did an amazing job of getting a lot of potential business in front of me, and didn't push enough of it out, and didn't connect, or maybe I connected and I dropped the ball on it, because you can still have all the numbers right in front of you and not do the right thing and get it done. But we just did a campaign where we're just calling through. This works for actually bringing on agents as well. But just the last 2 weeks, we've been calling through all of the old appointments that were missed or didn't show or anything like that. And last week I set 15 appointments because of that. And I think this week, I don't know, it's crazy. The last couple weeks have been nuts, but that's all because I track things. I know exactly where they are. We know exactly who to go back to. And it's also another numbers thing. It's taking, that's a year and a half of work, that a lot of those were, when you talk about top of funnel, bottom of funnel lead systems, it's like a lot of them were not ready to do anything. And it's one of those things where it drives me nuts, because I'm a big believer in anybody who has a pulse, a phone number, and an email is a client, especially listings. Anybody who owns a piece of property is just a bank account. So, but to me, it was about going back and making sure that we circle back around and can do that, right? But it's just, I don't know. It's
Scott, it looks like Jason's got his hand up, and I wanted to make sure that you saw that.
I did. I was completely ignoring it, but we'll unmute him. Go ahead.
That wouldn't be the first time I was ignored, Scott. I get it, buddy. I get it. I want to just make a comment, and then I have a question that is probably a very basic, simple question. But I started using CTE about 2 weeks ago, and it has been a game changer for me, because it's not just seeing what we have coming in, but it's also putting your nurturers in there and being able to see the potential income that you have waiting out there, and keeping it top of mind to make sure you're following up with them. Are we finding the right house? Is it a listing that we need to follow up with? It has just been phenomenal to look at what we can do. So I love this system. Still a little bit of a learning curve. So here's my basic question. What does KPI stand for?
Whatever you want it to stand for. I don't use, it's just your key performance indicators, what I call it.
Okay.
I don't know. Or there's all, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I know exactly that. I think
that's correct.
Yeah. Key performance indicators.
But I use, like I said, ABIs and RBIs, which is activity-based indicators, same thing, similar thing. And then results-based indicators, which is how many closings you had, how many, deposits you had, like what were the results, right? But like I said, that's something that I really wanted to talk about today, was about how so much of us focus on the goal and the results. But you can focus on the results all you want. To me, once you write the goal down, you're done with that process. You're done with thinking about it like that. You can think about, I have something written down. I wrote a bunch of stuff. Some really cool stuff, actually, but I gotta find this one thing. But it was just talking about how, winners and losers set the same goals, right? The goal, I want to have the goal. I want to make $500,000. The loser writes the same goal and they lost. They didn't do it. Why? Because they focused on the goal. They focused on the results. They didn't focus on the activities that it takes to get there and work back from it. So it's like, I think that part, is what I like about, I like systematic approaches to everything, because it just shows you where you're at and you don't blindly not know. Another part, and I kind of did a big workup on this, and I don't know. I want to see if anybody else has any questions, because I have a bunch of things I can go over. But anybody? Nobody?
Not right now. I think this is great. I really appreciate kind of getting the overview with Calvin. So let's pivot, Scott, and let's get straight into kind of what you're looking at in your own business. I understand that you're using this. And how did tracking your numbers change things for you? And I know that you have some prepared stuff like that I know, Calvin, if you have somewhere else that you needed to be, because I know you were going to give us 30 minutes, we're 5 over that, and I don't want to be disrespectful of your time.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'll
Okay,
kind of hang
great.
around here in the background. So
Cool.
I'll jump on
Cool.
maybe.
Scotty, the floor is yours, my man.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, my thing is just the same. I mean, it's a lot of, again, that's why I said I wanted to bring Calvin on, because it's showing the system that I've been using, and I've done a lot of coaching. One of the things that I think is really interesting about, hold on one second. I'm checking something out. Like when I was doing coaching calls, any team, individual, I don't care what they were, obviously you're going to start asking them questions, right? I want to ask questions, a ton of questions. I want to learn their business. I want to know a lot of things so I can help them. And what I found was that most of them couldn't answer the questions I asked them. It's like one of my main things is because I'm a lead generation guy, I'm a get business kind of guy. And that's what I'm very good at coaching at. And so I would ask them, like, what are your top lead sources? What are your top money makers? What are you good at? What lead sources do you have that is where most of your business comes from? So then they would tell me, right? And then I would ask them, okay, great. So which one are you getting the best ROI on? And then I would have like this blank stare going, I have no idea. Like, they don't know. I don't know that I've ever talked to a team or individual who knew that question. So, I mean, not that some don't, but most people just don't know. So it's like, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, so, there's so much room to help, right? Like, so they don't know. You basically they can tell you the results. This is another thing too. It's like, if I asked them, like, how many did you close this year? How many do you do that? All the goal or the end of it, they can answer that off the top of their head. And if you, like Jeff said earlier, if somebody says, I closed around 12, that's kind of like okay, 6, we know what we closed last year as a realtor. We might not want to admit it, but we know what we closed. So it was more just showing, it just shows like that's where our focus is. And then it's like, and if you talk about like what is the main problem, or what do you want to fix, or what do you want to do more of? Again, the answer is more production, more closings, it's more of those results. It's all about those results still. And then what I would do is then I would get it kind of changed around to go, okay, well, let's start focusing on what your activities are. Like, how do we get back to that? So then, and everybody in here, I'm sure you know it. It's like, we do a thing called the 1-3-5 business plan. I think we've even had a KV Core about it, or the Core 90 about that specific thing, where it's just like, once you get your number, I mean, you should, if you have a team, you get together with the whole team, get everybody's individual goals, then that's your one big goal for the year, right? A number goal. And then you work your way back. So working your way back is what I think that I've been good at and really paid attention to detail on my whole career, is like, what is it going to take to get us there? So, and I was doing this 15 years ago when I had a new agent come to my brokerage. They'd say, I want to make $200,000. I'm like, okay, we can do that. I can show you how to do that. And so then we would work back to it. And then we would get to the point where, here's exactly what you need to do on a daily basis to get that number. And if you do this consistently every day, here's how many hours I think it'll about take. And here's how many calls you're going to make to these certain sources that we knew worked. That's another thing too, is, and we've mentioned in this, a lot of us, we have our sources where our business comes from now. So we should be able to go, okay, well, let's put more into this one. But that's why you track your ROI. I'll pick on Zillow for a second, because I know, and I did this with Jake, because I helped Jake with some stuff multiple years ago. And we were just starting a Zillow program. And, most people think that sucks. They're taking our money, they're this and that. And we're like, okay, we'll see. And so we had a Zillow program. We started at maybe like $6,000 a month. But we had a team of as many people as I wanted to assign to Zillow. And then I looked into it. We figured out what they want, what they need, what you have to do, how they see things, how they give you more leads, all the metrics behind the scenes, like really dug and knew exactly what we had to do. Like when you got a lead, you had to put a note in their system. You had to mark it you had to change it into a different category. You have to keep it above a 90% rating to keep in good with them at that point. So we did that, and it took maybe 5 or 6 months. We were still sort of just chunking along. And then all of a sudden it started turn and we went to where we were getting 7 times ROI. So we spend 10, we make 70. And guess what? The budget went up to 30 grand, I think, or 20 to 30 grand. Because that's the whole point, right? It's like, know what your numbers are and then pour time, effort, and money into that to get that ROI. So, you know, the Zillow program for us, and I think a lot of other people that do it right is a great thing. Now it's changed altogether, but it works for every different lead source. So to me, you know, analyzing where exactly your business comes from, and improving on those things, but also I think a lot of agents and teams waste a lot of time on things that don't work very well and they think they do. The ROI is not as good as they could get somewhere else if they would put their money into that. So like, that's one of my things I wanted to talk about today was like a lot about just your time, like how much time we actually put into this business, right? Because you can track all these things. You should be able to find, we have so much access to so many people. We can get like, you know, there's all these things online or masterminds about lead sources that are bad, good, whatever. It doesn't matter. We have the access in our group, in our company, to find people that have success doing just about anything you can come up with or think about in this industry. So say there's 20 different ways to get business. You know, what are a couple of those that are successful and find the successful way to do it, and then you do it yourself or add to what you're doing. Like I'll use Steve Thomas. I don't think Steve is on here in our group. Did 111 deals last year with him and a showing assistant and an assistant. That's a ton, right? I mean, how much do you think, and this is another thing I wanted to get into, how much do you think Steve makes per hour? He makes a lot per hour. So his time is super valuable. He also does pay, you know, he's set up his system set up where he has a salary for a showing agent. So there's a lot of, you know, more of that coming that way. But like, he's at the point where he gets most of his business from referrals. He doesn't do lead gen like I do. It's a completely different business model and it's unbelievable, but he's kind of maxed himself out at that number. I mean, he's only one guy and you can only put in so many hours. And so then he's thinking about adding some other lead gen sources, then adding a couple buyers agents, right? But he's like kind of maxed it out. But, you know, I think everything in this industry, to me, most of it works pretty well if you do it right. I have a kind of a story that's not really related totally to real estate, but it's a guy that I just kind of was introduced to. He actually created a multi-million-dollar business off of door knocking. I told Joe about this yesterday. It was back years ago. It was like a direct TV thing. He would go knock doors, sell direct TV, get paid a little bit for his sales. But that's not what he did. He scaled. He ended up having 300 employees all over the country that would go do that same thing. And he was making millions a year off of door knocking. So it's like, yeah, that works pretty well if you do it right. But anyways, and just on the time side of it, like I put a little thing together, and I'm sorry, because I didn't put any slides together, even though I have a bunch of stuff that I can turn into that. But I was just doing examples of, well, there's another thing too I'll go into first. Does anybody have any questions, first of all, before I just keep jabbering? Nothing?
You know, one thing that occurs to me, Scott, is just listening to this. If you go top agent to top agent across the entire industry, it doesn't matter what, you know, company or team they're with or whatever, you know, what state they're in. All of this is true for every single top agent, especially when you get past a certain echelon. I would say it's like 2 or 3 deals a month, and you start getting past that, and people start knowing their numbers at a higher level, or they should. Or they've gotten lucky on one like lead source that they figured out, but now they don't know where their business is. So maybe they're making a ton of money and spending or burning through all of it, or they're working 900 hours a week when they could be working way fewer hours because they just don't know what part of their business is actually creating the result. And there's all sorts of like kind of examples out there, but just roughly, like, I mean, if you were I don't know if there was some mineral that ended up in your water that caused you to rapidly lose weight. And it just happened to be right at the same time that you had started picking your nose, you'd think, oh, picking my nose is making me lose weight. And then you'd be like, I should double down. You'd jam both fingers right up your nose, thinking I'm going to be the skinniest son of a gun around. But guess what? That's not what caused that. And so a lot of times there's this misattribution. And in like higher level research, we call it correlation doesn't equal causation. And what that really just means is just because two things seem to be connected doesn't mean that they actually are causing each other or one's causing the other. And so what's nice about actually truly tracking your numbers and getting deep into your metrics is you can figure out this is actually giving me a result. And like I do a coaching through the Tony Robbins organization. One of the things that we focus on is what's actually creating 80% of your result. Not even the whole result. And a lot of times with any top producer, if you really dig into their business, you can figure out one single thing created 80% of their result. And usually they're sending 80% of their money to something else. Oops.
Yeah,
that's a misalignment.
Oh no, that was unbelievable because like you just hit on exactly what I was going to talk about next, which is like the whole 80-20 rule thing, right? It's like whatever you spend, basically, you're basically 80% of your results come from 20% of your time spent on some subject or thing, right? Like Jeff just said, that's how it works. It's like, so that's the thing that I think that's very, very, very important for us that's why you have to analyze things. You have to know if they work. You know what your top 3 things are. Like if you're spending a lot more money on something that is number 8 as your revenue source, that's not good. It's like, that's why you keep your numbers. You can know your ROI. You can know where to spend more money. Like I gave you the Zillow example. It could have turned out bad. It didn't. And then it turned out to be an amazing thing actually, for that situation. So that was one thing is like, how much time you spend and how much of that 20% and what you're doing to get those 80% of the results. But I did kind of a scenario, and this is just something I think super important because a lot of things too, it was always coaching anybody, it always came down to either money or time, right? Like there's 2 things they wanted. They want to have more time and they almost all wanted to have more money, but some people were okay with the money they were making. They just wanted to make it consistent and really know how they can automate, I guess, because they were really trying to have more time in their life. They were already happy with the amount of money they're making. And that's a huge thing, right? And that's something that's super important because that works for anybody because we all want more time. Even if we say we don't, I bet you'd like to be able to make the same amount of money in half the amount of time. Because then if you just really want to make a lot of money, guess what? Then you can make twice as much money in that time you were making it in before, once you fix all the issues. But I did a little scenario, say like somebody, and this is just not really a true scenario, but if you make like say $300,000 gross and you were putting in 25 hours a week to do that, you're making $250 an hour, right? So I do this, I've done it wrong, I've fixed it for the most part. I still have some fixing to do, but like if I'm going to make $250 an hour, why am I ever doing a $20 task, right? That's crazy. Like, so if you are working 24 hours, and even if you did this, and I did it again, if you do 40 hours a week and you make $300,000, you're at $158 an hour. So if you hired somebody to do, because what happens is we get into like, I had it like 3 different tiers of responsibility, I guess, that we do. And it's kind of that 80-20 rule too, where we get out of that 20% that we're supposed to be doing, and we start to get over into the 80% that we really shouldn't be doing. And it's not in it shouldn't be because it's not in our pay grade of what we're able to make per hour. And we talk ourselves into doing it. Like we keep busy, or since we're busy doing things, we think that we're working hard, but they're really our tasks that we shouldn't be doing. Or we put weight to them. Like we think they're important, but they're really not as important as we think they are. And we can move them, right? Or and just like the whole we're running around putting out fires or we're doing whatever. That's also like that's how you can get help for that. So say you hired somebody at $20 an hour, that's going to cost you 20 grand a year. And say they took half of that time then went to them. You're still making what, $280,800, and you were doing it in half the time. So it's just like, that's a real deal. Like, we all do that. And so I can't remember what book it is. Jeff probably knows. There's many of them. I mean, Atomic Habit has some of that stuff. There's some other ones that are specifically just about time that I know I've read it and I've done it. And Darren Hardy talks about it a lot too, is just knowing what you do for a day, or like spend your day or track your day, for a week, for a month, all day long, all the activities that you do on a daily basis right now, and then write down the hourly wage somebody could get paid to do that task. It'll blow your doors away. And then the other part is the fact that we all, so many realtors, I work 60 hours a week. No, they don't. If they do, it's not working in that 20%. It's working in the 80%. And so they're really spinning their wheels doing that. And I know I'm a perfect example because I'm a perfectionist. And years ago when I had my own company, I didn't think anybody else could do anything even close to me, Joanne. You're just like me. So, and it's not true. I found out some people are actually a lot better at the things that I thought I could be the only one doing. And it's taken me forever to figure that out and actually implement that stuff. But I'm doing it more now, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. The results are better. I do have more time. I mean, I honestly can't say I feel like I put in 40 hours a week, but I definitely don't. I know I don't. Not even close. Not a productive time. But
Scott, what's interesting about this is, so I see this trend with people. Hopefully, there's more and more people that want to track their numbers. And whether you're going to use Sisu, I know that's what Jake and those guys use, or you're going to use CTE. I think the price point is a bit more affordable on CTE. And again, all of these will do great things, and it just depends on how deep you kind of want to be able to dive. Here's one thing I will tell you guys: no matter what you do, it doesn't work unless you do it. Creating a beautiful spreadsheet and then forgetting about it and looking back at it 12 years later is just depressing. So skip that step. Only do it if you're going to do it, right? It's like, for me, when I know that I need to, let's say, lose weight, I start tracking my weight. It's a very easy thing to do, and it's so dumb how effective it is, but you can see trend data on the main things, right? And so, but what I also like is that you're tracking activities here. And there's this idea, I think, in real estate of cause and effect, right? And too many times we're focused on the effect, but we're not focused on the cause. Like, what created this effect that I wanted? Oh, how much money did you make? This much. Well, great. What do you want to do next year? I want to make more. Awesome. What are you going to do for that? Just make more. Oh, that's not how you made the first part, right? So we need to figure out what created the first lump so we can create two lumps or two widgets or $200,000 or $2 million or whatever it is. To jump from here to there, though, will require you to get into your numbers and understand them. So I think the thing I like about tracking activity is that it makes you focus on the actions that are creating the results. So you're not just focused on results like, oh, my business is worse. That's a bummer. Well, were your actions the same? Did the market go down 40% and you kept your actions the same, which would create a 40% dip in your business, right? A lot of us saw that. Not a shame thing, but if you don't have a scalable lead generation concept built into your business yet, then when the market dips and you're riding the market, you'll dip, same as the market does, right? Some of us experience that. Okay, great. Is that bad? No. Is it good? No. Does it tell you something? Yes. And that is helpful to know. And that's what we want to look at.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because I had that Pareto principle written down. Also, Jeff knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, does anybody have any questions? I mean, like I said, I'd rather be focused on what you guys want to hear or what you want to explain. I mean, to me, this whole numbers thing, like I said, why I think to me it's exciting is because to me it's everything, right? It's the whole business model that I like is a predictable profitability model. Like I know what the results I've gotten because I've kept track of them for years. I know what makes money I can learn not just from what I've done, I learn from all kinds of other people, right? But I know at this point, how I have it set up is I add funds. If I want more leads and I want more profit, I add funds to it for the leads. See, now that only covers one part of it, and I'm too good at that part of it. And right now I need to have a better execution on what to do when those appointments get set to me. And that's why I'm actually starting to grow my own personal team again. But I also refer leads out to different people is what I've decided to do because I enjoy that part of it. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to focus more on that part of it. I'm still going to do some deals, but I'm really going to focus on that because I can turn it up. I can turn the volume up. That's all I have to do. Like I've always said this and I've done it in the past where like today I could have 20 solid agents join my team and in a month they will all be slammed because all I have to do is turn up the volume. All I have to do is turn up the volume of the lead generation system I already have because I pay a certain amount. I put a certain amount into it each month and I know what can come out of it. So it's that simple, but it's not for everybody because it's expensive, right? It's expensive. It's kind of a high entry point, I guess. If you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to have ISAs and you're going to have other things that are set up for you. But like right now, my personal business model is I actually have 3 people now that are ISAs and they're working on different things, some technology stuff, because I'm working on some other things moving forward to have a systematic approach to actually do this stuff. And then I have a personal guy. Like I hate making calls, honestly. I'm good at them. I feel like, and it's so stupid. And I know there's so many people out there. It's like, I feel it's such a weird thing because I feel like I want me on that call over anybody else, right? To be on that call, but I don't want to do the call. I hate it sometimes. It's like it's a weird thing. It's a love-hate thing. It's like I want to be on it because I know I'm good at it, but then again, I don't want to spend all my time doing that. So
totally agree.
I finally decided I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get some help. So like right now I have it to where my system is set up to where I put money in and I get an appointment on my calendar.
I love that. Well, and what's beautiful too is you've got a cause followed by an effect. I did notice that Joanne had her hand up here. I wanted to make sure she had a chance to ask you a question. Go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you. I unmuted on the big screen. Otherwise we'll have feedback. So my question is the challenge. I'm glad that you said we're alike because that gives me hope, Scott, but my biggest challenge, one of my biggest challenges is the tedium of like, how do you put all that stuff in? Like, I mean, like even when I get a new lead to stop and actually put them in KV Core and do that to me is just like tedious tasks that I'm not good at. And so it's like, how do you manage the actual tracking of the activities you have to put in? And do you want to answer to that?
Yes, that's why I'm wagging my finger around. And how do you narrow down redundancy, right?
Yeah. Okay. There's 2 ways. I mean, in my mind, there's 2 ways to solve that, right? You do it, or somebody on your team does it, or you hire somebody to do it for you. It's easy. It's cheap. I mean, that's actually what I'm doing.
Text them 2 appointments, put in 2 appointments, 2 did it. I mean, what?
Well, like daily things need to be tracked. And in a minute, I'll show you guys like my lead gen screen that I use in CTI. And I know the percentage of the calls, all of it, right? But like you don't, and I'm just really, really glad you brought up that point because to me, I have a little system where every morning I do certain things, I have to do them. I hate them, but I got to do them. So I do them real quick. Like every morning, into the point to what I have set up now, the only thing I have to do now is look at look at the calendar to see what appointments I have for the day. And I'm working this out because this new system I'm working on will do it better. But right now I have my guy doing it to where he'll set the appointment. He'll put the appointment in KV Core. And actually KV Core has a new feature where you can actually it's more of an appointment setting where you can actually have reminders in there and even have a reminder sent to your client, which is huge because that is important, right? It's like when we just put reminders for ourselves, but then we're not reminding the client that we had an appointment set with, they seem to forget and not show up or not answer their phone or whatever they do. So there is actually a way in KV Core to actually do that now as well. But there's not a way in KV Core that I know of yet to set reminders for me Like I get a Google calendar, or on my Google calendar, when I get an appointment set, I go in there and change the color. I can't change the color in KV Core, so when I get it, it's just a whatever color. I put it like this banana color, so it's bright. And then I add like a 10-minute, a 30-minute, and an hour reminder, just so it, because it doesn't go off, I don't do it. So that's my process, right? For my lead generation right now. Add money and then make sure that I'm going to get the reminders. But for the time spent, I have somebody else doing that right now, is my solution, and it's very cheap. And every day they do that. But so I used to, in that morning time, instead of just checking my calendar and getting reminders, I would go in and enter my whatever is new for the day. And it's not that big of a deal. It's way simpler, and that's why I'm glad you brought it up, than you think. It's like, and I can show you, you just like, if you have a new pending, there's a My Business page where just you have all your business. If you have a new listing or a new potential listing coming up, you put the people in, you put all their information, and it's done. It takes like 2 minutes to put them in there. And then if they go pending, you click the box from a pipeline to coming soon listing or something like that to pending, and then it'll show on the boards. It filtrates it to everything. So it's like a 1-page thing you can do. And in here, that's for your business, right? So like you can put in a buyer you're working with, you put them in. If you put in active listings, active pendings, when they go closed, you click one button and it closes, and it filters it out to the rest of your system. So it is not time consuming. You only need to put in the new things or if something's changed. So I just check it real quick each day. It's seriously a matter of minutes. And I'll show you a picture of that. The other part of it is and that's your active business, ongoing business, closed business, all that. The other part of it is the lead generation entry form that I also do that, or I actually do it right now. I'll probably kick that out too. But it's just going in there, how many hours a day that I prospected, how many calls I made, and how many nurtures I created, and how many appointments for a buyer or a seller that I set, right? So I can tell you, like, for last year, I can tell you every single hour, every single appointment, every single call, how many nurtures, all of it. And
Awesome.
every one of those people that myself or my guy got a hold of goes into KV Core. But see, my business is different now. Like, we're doing some different things with some other people where we're doing like more outbound calling, like Mojo, triple line dialer, and dialing. And then when we get clients, we put them into the system. My business is completely based off of responding to requests. There's no outbound cold anything. It's all responding to somebody asking for something from us. But the key to that is it's the same, it's a different process, but it's just a different cost to that process, because then I put out advertising to lead them to me. That's compelling and a good value add reason for them to do that. And so, but what happens is then, going back to like your question is like what I put in every day, it takes me like, sometimes I won't do it for a couple of days, but I'll have the numbers written down, and then it takes me 5 minutes to put it in. So it takes very little tiny time to input what we need to input into the system or any system like it. Like a Sisu is a much fancier version of this. Or like I said, I should show you guys the system. I had my own system. I just wasn't smart enough as Calvin to actually start selling it, because I have one that was very similar years ago, and it was in an Excel spreadsheet, and I got pretty good at it. and it did the most important things. It does not do all the stuff this does at all, but it did what I had to have.
Well, it's kind of the beauty of him having turned it into a business, is though he's had so many data points to be able to build this out. And I will say, having used it, Joanne, it's not actually a ton of information. That it gives you way more than it requires from you. Does that make sense? You can put in the minimums, and then the amount of data that's suddenly at your fingertips is pretty wild. And Joe, I saw that you had a question, my friend. What's going on, dude? Joe Yates. Thanks for being here, man.
Well, as a guy that doesn't really use systems very much. However, I can say that you can't fully scale unless you have systems. I mean, because I know that, and I know how much I can do. I'm pretty good at retaining things. I'm pretty good at tracking things, but you can't, I don't do nearly what I could if I wasn't plugged into those systems. And I did use CTE with Scott before. And to what Jason said, it is really cool when you have your pipeline in there and it kind of, auto populates in what the dollar amount is that you projected to be able to make off of these clients. If I look up there at my board right now and I just see a bunch of names, they're just names. And I'm like going, yeah, I should call that guy. I should call that guy. But if next to his name it said $11,400, and next to somebody else's name it said 8,800, and next to somebody else's name it said 16,000, as you kind of like start knowing what people are looking for, or when you get people in your pipeline and stuff like that, and you can kind of see what all these deals are actually worth, it kind of really motivates you and kind of keeps you going a little bit. To the 80-20 principle that you're talking about, I've got this stack of papers on my desk here of a bunch of passwords and crap that needs to be all organized. And every time I'm sitting down here, I keep getting tempted to reach over and start working on that. But I know that that's not an income producing activity to be done at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's something that's supposed to be done at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. So it's important to know the things that you're doing right now. I could check that off my list and feel good about myself, but I know damn good and well I was wasting my actual work day and not using that time on that 20% that is actually going to produce that, income for me. And one of the things as far as tracking too, when we're just talking about the down market, is it's what did I do today, but also tracking each individual activity. As far as if I'm out there doing lead generation, take like a 2-hour block and go, okay, 2 hours of open houses, and I did them 5 times. You can't do one, that's not a sampling. But if you did 5 open houses, you did each one for 2 hours, then what did I generate out of that? How many buyers did I generate? How many sellers did I generate? And now I can start to get what 2 hours of open house activity starts to look like. And then if I did 2 hours of door knocking and then did that 5 times, not one day, different neighborhoods, what does that look like? And then 2 hours of contacting my sphere and 2 hours of calling expireds and whatever it is, now you can start to kind of gauge things specifically with the right sampling and the right exact amount of time on each one. What do I get out of this activity? What do I get out of this activity? What do I get out of this activity? Instead of, I tried door knocking and it didn't work. I did 2 open houses, didn't really get anything. Or I did an open house and I got a buyer, so I'm going to do those from now on. It's just like track everything, but you got to do it the same measurable to be able to see what you want to start spending that 20% of your time on, or what is going to be your highest income producing activity. So anyways, just as a guy that needs to plug into this more and having seen the way it works, I'm trying to get a little bit better at it, but I am starting to track my numbers a little bit better. And I think it's something that will help a lot.
Yeah, that's something, just to tell you guys too, there's a whole other side of it that Calvin didn't really show either, that I think is important to track, and any business does track it somewhere, is just all the financial statement, right? Like mine is set up to where all the closing numbers from real estate business comes into that automatically. But then I set up, I set it up a long time ago. I have just all my expenses, every single one of them. And then it's set up like a grid of January. Here's all my expenses. Here's January. And, as the months come in, I just slide them over or fill it in. And then it tells you your profit every month,
I love it so much.
You don't, because that's the thing that blows people away, right? It's like, you can do $1 million in commissions and make 20 grand. And there's teams out there doing that. And
there's a lot of people doing that.
And like Jake is a great example of somebody who, man, I swear he looks at his numbers every day. I mean, even his expenses. It's like, if it's a $20 thing, it's like, wait a minute, I paid for this, I canceled that last month. It's a big deal. Right. It's done. It's gone. It's like off. It's paid attention to. And you can't miss that stuff. It's like stuff we don't want to see. Some of us, we don't want to see it. We don't want to deal with it, but we have to. And like, you see it. And then if you keep putting like, and I've done this, it's like, I was going to cancel some subscription to something that had to do with my business. And then, I do this thing on Sundays. I have a calendar link that tells me on Sunday at 6 o'clock or whatever to look at my financials no matter what. So I at least have to look at it once a week. For anyways, that's kind of just because otherwise I won't do it. And but it's like I've had something to where, I go to put in my, say, March numbers, and I'm like, crap, I'm putting this one in again because I didn't cancel that and I'm not using it, right? It like makes you aware, you see it. And that's something I like about this system also is, and I think Joe or somebody said it, was about that. It reminds you you're seeing things you didn't know you needed to see. I think Jeff said it. It's like you're seeing all these. It's such a good way to just know what you're supposed to be looking at or doing or keeping track of, or if you may never use it. I mean, there's part of the systems I don't touch or use. It's just I use what makes sense to me. But the financial part, the financial statement part, the business planning part, the active activities in part of it in the front and the results in the back is what you need to know. And those all together then tells you your little story of what you need to be doing. And even in a good system, once you plug in your goal number, it will break down what you have to do.
Right.
Specifically.
Hey, Scott, so two things that just came to my mind, which are, this is so awesome because I love this emphasis on knowing, tracking, and understanding your metrics. By the way, do this, have a budget, do this for your life, do this for your business. And then also in your business, track your KPIs nice and down. Jason, I see your hand up, so I'll be with you in just one second, but the old adage in business is spend 1/3 of your income for 8 years and you can retire on the exact same lifestyle. I don't know if anyone doesn't know that on this call. If you don't, there it is. You have to still invest the extra. Why are you spending 1/3? You're going to pay some taxes. Then you're going to spend probably about 1/3 of it on investing. And guess what? You do that for 8 years at roughly 7% interest, compounding over time, and you've replaced your lifestyle. So one of the things that we're doing here in this is we're also trying to understand in our business, a lot of times what happens, and I'm going to draw this really quick. I'm not going to take over for too long here, but I want you guys to see this just so you think about things slightly differently. Because when you think about things differently, you start to approach them differently. So just check this out for a sec. All right, let's say that I was going to be Bob, the woodworker, and I'm going to start making tables because I like making tables. So here I am making a table. It looks terrible. It's my first one. So, but I'm making this table. And I start making better and better tables. So originally I can charge, $1 sign, but pretty soon my tables are getting fancy. I'm incorporating all the stuff that everyone sees on Instagram and all that crap. And now I'm making $5 signs per whatever. So it's making sense, right? So I've increased my income on the table. But what I can also tell you, holy moly, I've got so many things on here. Hold on, let me shoop. There we go. But what I can tell you is that this is what's called an owner-operator business, right? Because if I'm here, this is the operator. What are they doing? They're making tables. And if I'm also the owner and I'm also this person making tables, I have an owner-operator business, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to have to figure out how to sell more tables for more money, right? Hopefully a hell of a lot more money, and then as many tables as I can personally make, right? Eventually I want them to be seen as works of art, and that's how I could drive my income up. Or here's the alternative. The alternative is I understand what it takes to be an operator. This is where you must know your numbers. And I say, well, how many people could I train with my system to do this job here as operator? But then I must be the what? CEO of my business. The CEO, sorry, not CEP, the CEO of the business is over here. Their job is to what? Know the numbers, track the numbers, and then what? And then grow the business. But growing the business might mean hiring. It might mean reducing costs. It might mean a lot of things, lead gen systems, et cetera, right? This is what Scott's talking about today. Too many people are thinking of themselves as this guy over here and not this person. And by the way, even if you are the owner operator in your business, you're also the CEO. How do I know? Who else is doing it if it's not you, right? So you must be the CEO of your business. Otherwise, your business will never scale up. And the very best way to get it to scale up is to start to understand, holy moly, when I make those really, really ugly fluorescent pink tables, I can sell them for $10,000 a piece because Susan G. Komen's buying them all or something. I don't know. Right? Okay, well, great. That would be a handy piece of information. So I'm not so focused on making the NFL tables that nobody's buying or whatever. I'm just giving random examples here. Bring it back to real estate. We see this problem too often where you're not actually assuming the role of CEO so that you can know the numbers, track the numbers, grow your business, etc. Right? I could also say if I could just kind of say this thing here is 1 square, great. But what if I had another one? Whoops. What if holy moly, it's not working. All right. I don't know how to use Zoom. But anyway, if I could do more and more of these, then I can have more and more operators all around me. And then I can grow my business, or I can figure out what my widget is that creates additional flexibility and cost reductions in my business. So it helps me to scale up. And last thing I'll say, because I need to hammer home what Scott said, most large teams are operating, if they're good, they're trying to get to right around 20% profitability. 20%. Yeah, 20%. But the beauty is if you can make $2, $3, $5 million and then operate on 20% and your personal time in your business is much lower, you might be able to also run simultaneously other businesses, or if not, be able to scale your primary business, right? And there's not a right way to do this, guys. If you're the only person in your business, you must be the person running the numbers. Otherwise, no one has their eyes on the dials, but the airplane is still in the air.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
I love it. I love it. And I think something that I was thinking of earlier, it's the same thing, right? As far as all this stuff about talking about scaling or knowing your numbers, it's so you can be more efficient. It's so you can actually save money, save time, or make more money with the same amount of time. It's all about being more efficient.
Yep.
But
Jason, Jen, I saw that your hands were up
sorry.
there. I want to make sure. No, don't apologize. I want to make sure that they have time to ask a question while you're still on stage, my man.
No, that's all right. We just like to be on camera, so that's why I raised my hand. But it's funny because what I've learned in the last couple of weeks, what Jennifer and I have learned in the last couple of weeks, is I like to talk and get on the phone. And I realize that where I'm missing the boat is I'm not tracking and keeping my numbers right. So when we talk about this, kind of goes back to you, Joanne, when we talk about where do we find the time to do it. So when I first got this system, I was so overwhelmed. Me and Jennifer were looking at it, and it took us about an hour to get everything dialed in. Once we did, it was just 5 minutes of maintenance every day to put our stuff in there. So it was really actually very simplified. And at the end of the night, there's a 1-page form that takes 30 seconds to input calls, how many hours, lead gen, whatever it is that you're doing. So for what that's worth, it's about an hour and a half of investment after getting this. And there's several of them out there. Once we've gotten this, it was really an eye-opener to say, okay, take our time, see what we're doing, know who we have to work on. And honestly, I can already see in the last 2.5 weeks how business is starting to get, how we're starting to get busier, more clients, keeping on top of clients. So really, and Scott and I, we were talking about this yesterday, it's really slowing it down, putting everything in your KV core, into your CTE, whatever system you use, and really focusing on the future business, right? I've been, for 8 years, I've been after the right now business, and I've probably lost hundreds of thousands of dollars not nurturing the clients I should have over the last 8 years. So this has kind of been a mind shift of just slowing down, tracking, and seeing what's out there. So for what that's worth, maybe 10 minutes of your day and you've got it tracked. And to me, it's a motivator to see what's out there.
No, 100%, Jason. And that, something too, and that kind of ties into what I was still kind of wanting to make sure everybody understood, is like, this doesn't take very much time. And like back to Joanne, it really doesn't. It takes a little bit of time to get it set up, or whatever system you're going to use, again, get it set up. And then it's just a little bit of maintenance, but the benefits are unbelievable. But also it kind of goes with like putting your numbers in here. And there's a way where you can actually assign team members if you have them, or you can just get an email to you every night that then you open it up and you fill it out like a little Google sheet. So it makes it simple that way too. But part of this also is I had like going into, that's one thing, right? But then you have these clients and it's talking about your CRM, your KV core, and scaling and numbers. It's more on the numbers thing. So it was something I wanted to talk about still, was like having your KV core set up the right way. Like right now, I'll have a client that maybe reached out to us, responded to something. They're on a home search. I have them on a campaign. Like I can use one as an example right now. I'm looking at on my screen. You can't see it. They have 23 touches in the future set up already. Certain things that are value adds that they want to hear, or it might be asking them for help or whatever. So it's like the automation side of it, the leveraging your business side of it is how you focus on going back to that 20% that we should be focused on and the time that we should be spending. There's so many ways to set that up, and there's like really no excuses not to do it. If we're with if you're with EXP, you have KV4, and it's an amazing product. It really is. It does a lot of things. I mean, there's add-ons to it. Anyways, but just the simple part of it is just having your clients all set up correctly, and there's just so much to it. But it's not that difficult. If you don't know how to set it up, have somebody set it up for you. It's that there's a million people out there that can set it up for you. But you have to have your people on, because when you look at the lifetime of a lead, or the year a lead comes in and how many touches that they should have that year, or how much attention you should be spending to them or their way, it's impossible for us to do it at scale because we just don't have enough time in the day. It's back to time. But when you have I can do 42 touches in a year, and maybe only 3 of them are me making a phone call to keep a client happy that's maybe he's not ready to do anything yet. And then that's the other part of it too. Like, I truly believe anybody that you should be adding to your database on a daily basis and having a phone number and an email and hopefully get to talk to them. But I have tons of people in my database that they still won't talk to me, but they're looking at properties online. They're getting my home evaluation reports automated monthly. I have a 50% open rate on the system I use to send those out. So they're looking at my stuff every month, and that's a bank account. So that's on me to lose, right? I'm going to get that business unless I lose it. And so when you can say if I'm automating things and I have 40 touches going out to everybody in a 12,000 person database, which I don't have all of them yet, I'm working on it. That's crazy, right? You're operating like, and I'm just doing it somewhat as an individual. So you're operating like you're a huge team. Most huge teams don't have that well of a setup. So it's crazy. You can get flooded with business. I mean, that's how I look at it. Like, this business is complicated, but it's not. You can make it simplified because all you're wanting to do is get a live appointment with the person. And that's what I was talking about, because everybody says, like, I'm techie, I'm into all this stuff. The thing I'm the best at is getting in front of a buyer or a seller.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of all of this stuff. If I could do it without it, I would do it in a heartbeat. Like, easy. If I just had buyers and sellers knocking on my door every morning, I'd shut the computer off.
Well, what I like that you've also said here, which is really interesting, is, I mean, one of my earliest coaches, and I know this is kind of one of your concepts, asked me, he said, what is it in your business that makes money? And the weird part was how hard it was initially, when the first time I was ever asked that, to answer that question.
Yeah.
And so I think where the confusion is we get into real estate and we get excited, and it's like, I love people and I like working with people. Well, people aren't numbers, so you better fall in love with numbers as well, because that's going to be a problem in your business if you don't fall in love over there in the accounting department. And especially if you are the accounting department, right? Well, I'd love to outsource that. Wouldn't we all? That'd be nice. I look at my numbers every single freaking day, every day, usually 3 to 5 times a day. And I'm talking huge spreadsheets with analytics built in. I look at our family budget, generally speaking, once a week, maybe more than that, if we're trying to accomplish a certain process. So, like, getting into your numbers is like, it's CEO level mindset. And if you want to be paid like a CEO, you might have to act like one. And that's where life starts to change. And then you can stack out, well, where are my expenses and how am I going to cut and all this kind of stuff. You can't know what to do. It's like being a surgeon and being, well, but I just like to cut things out of people. Well, can we just make sure that we're cutting the right thing out? Because sometimes surgeons cut off the wrong leg, and that's a bit of a problem because you can't move the right one over to the left hole. It just doesn't work. We're not Legos, right? So it doesn't work that way. So in this case, what this allows us to do is to get into our business and ask the question, what is it in my business that I do? What is it, or that happens in my business that makes money? By the way, if none of you have actually asked yourself that and tried to answer it, do that, because it's weird in real estate. Well, I sell houses. Awesome. Is that really the thing that you do that makes money? And describe that. Exactly. Okay, well, and then we have to go deeper and deeper. What you'll find, by the way, if you track this back far enough, is that the things that you do in your business that actually make money, meaning that led to the thing 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 that led to the paycheck, that's the thing that you can actually scale. But then we have to figure out how to do that. And we can take an approach to doing that. And I love this because it's a core coaching principle of understanding how the machine actually works, right? I got a telephone. I'd like to know how the darn thing works. That kind of a deal. We've got 5 minutes. I want to make sure that we wrap strong. Scott, what are the parting shots? I know you had a couple other core concepts. Do you want to hit them from like 30,000 foot and make sure that people walk away kind of feeling?
Yeah, or if somebody's, I guess my thing is I want everybody to understand and not get the wrong approach, like I said, about being so technical or something like that. I think to me, this is all stuff that's out there. There's, everybody runs their business differently, and it just completely depends on where they want to go, right? Like if you have a business and you want to grow it, then you have to figure out what you're already doing right to grow it that way and how you're going to do that without, if you're already working 50 hours a week, then you've got some fixing to do and some rearranging and some systems to put into place, and not focusing on the goals, but focusing on those activities like we talked about. I think it's just about, and I want everybody to know it's not difficult. I mean, it's difficult if you're going to handle a lot of things yourself, but there are so many resources out there, and some of it's a one-time thing. Like to have your KV core set up correctly is a one-time either time or cost to get it done the right way. Then all you're doing is adding people to it, and that's how I've set it all up. It's like I've done a lot of this stuff myself. But all right now, like I keep saying, all I'm doing is adding person to it. It's like, how do I make more money? In our business, if you want to just make it that simple, if you have the right systems, all you have to do is add more people to it. That's it. And then follow the systems and do and it doesn't have to be about numbers. It is about numbers, but you can pretend it's not, because it's just how many calls you're going to make in a day, or how many reach outs you're going to make, or how many doors you're going to knock, or whatever it is. It all works if you do it right. But it's like, it's not that difficult. There's not anybody on this call or anybody that can't do all of those things or all of these things. It's just, it might take a one-time cost to get it done, or it might be a cost going forward. Who knows? But then it's an ROI thing, right? So it's not difficult. Usually, like these systems, once you get them all set up and in place, you're just adding people. That's it. You're adding people to them. Whether it's a CTE formula, you're adding people and numbers in your business in that. With KV Core, I mean, I can't tell you how crucial it is and how much time you can save by having that set up correctly. Because it's just there's nothing better than having a business that's running when you're golfing, right? It's sending things out. It's like daily. You can look at, like, if we all have KV Core, if you look at your dashboard on a daily basis, which you should be, because you should be answering, you should have people asking you questions or wanting something, or looking at houses, or you should be getting the alerts that they just looked at something 3 times, or they sent the same property to 5 of their friends, like all these different little indicators and triggers to get busy. And if you don't have questions and answers and things like that coming into your dashboard, then you need to fix some things. You need to get them on property searches. You need to get them on, all these things. That's pretty much at this level. That's how my business works. It comes in, but it's not just like coming into me. And I honestly don't have a big referral network.
Right.
I took some time off out of the business several years ago, and my big referral network went to Steve Thomas, I think. But anyway, somebody else, it's not me. But it's just, that's how it is. But it's not overwhelming or hard. You can make it very simple. Like anything that we've talked about today is a simple solution. Like I said, it might cost a little money, but then you can get it set up, and the ROI is going to be well worth it. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and plus you can know, I love this because you can know where your business is really coming from. And what happens more often than not, and Scott and I have talked about this in so many, like, just private conversations, is an agent will be so stuck on like a project that they're working on. Here's a good example. How many agents have invested the blippity blap, too much time building out some fancy website that, if you really were honest with yourself, has probably never created a closing for you ever in the history of your business, right? And yet it happens all the time. Yeah, I saw a few hands go up. That's awesome, right? Thanks for the vulnerability and the honesty. I've freaking done it, and it drives me nuts, right? Why are we doing that? Well, because we're looking for like a better mousetrap. But the reality is, if you start just looking at the numbers and you're like, oh, 80% of my business came out of my sphere, maybe instead of all the time, energy, and money I'm spending over here on this dumb thing that's not working, I could just spend that time, energy, and money on my sphere and generate 3 times as many closings. And that is actually how this works. And you can use the data to drive decision making. And by the way, that is what being a CEO is.
Yes. That's exactly, like, they hit the spot, because we all have those things. I have some things that I think are so cool. I love doing them. But is it do I get good results with it? No. Like, you got to cut it. It's like, that doesn't work. It's like, I'm not just doing that for fun. I'm convinced myself it's something cool and fancy and that it'll be nice, but it's just a waste of time is what it is. And, you go through a lot of things, and that's what we're supposed to be learning. I've been in the business for over 20 years. I've definitely learned a lot of things. Have I hung on to some things that I should have killed? Yeah, I still have them, but it's like getting better and better at it. And it's taken me a long time to just implement some things that I always talked about and should do. And sometimes you should do those, and sometimes you shouldn't. Right? It still goes back to that 20%.
That's
you
it.
really have to make sure you're not just overly excited about something, but the results aren't real. And starting a project where you don't even know exactly where your profits are going to come from. Like, you start a business, right? If you have a financer, they want to know where you're making the money. Like, you need to do that yourself. Like, where's the money coming from? Exactly what is it going to cost me? And how much time and effort am I going to have to put into that to make sense? Because I've done that my whole career, big time, that polyphasing or whatever it's called. I start a 20 task, and I have so many going that I'm frozen. And so try to avoid that. But it's really just knowing what works for you. And if you can do more of it, or if that's timed out, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things I'm just about automation and getting things set up and off my plate. And
I love it.
I've talked, Jake does he's one of the best people at it I've ever met, honestly. He can have an idea, and all of a sudden he's not afraid to do what I used to always be afraid to do. And I tell you, I'll give Jake the biggest compliment on this, is like, he can start some new thing that is hot and exciting, like we're talking about. And he can be like, John, you're doing this. Here you go. And he'll give you a shot. If you screw it up, he'll shoot your ass and you'll be in trouble. But he will, it's amazing. He can leverage out things just better than anybody I've ever seen. And that's partly why he's doing what he's doing.
Well, and the core of that, I'm sure, and it's true for you, it's true for Joe, Jason, Joanne, all the top, amazing agents that we've had on here today that have commented in. I appreciate everybody participating at such a high level. But the truth is, top business people always know what's producing results in their business, and they know where things are creating vulnerabilities. At the end of the day, if I'm spending $1,000 a month on something that's not bringing me any money back, I need to turn that off. Cut it off. That is a cancer. It is robbing your business of its future growth. And I hear so many people say, well, if it only just creates one closing. That is the dumbest logic statement I've ever heard in my whole life. Stop doing that. That you're just rationalizing some ego bullcrap that makes you feel better about whatever your like light up hats that you just bought 25,000 of. Stop doing it. Joanne, thanks. Right? Like, we've all seen it. If you've ever coached another agent, by the way, they say that teaching is the greatest way to learn. The greatest way to learn in real estate, by the way, coach another agent who's on the same path, on the same journey. It's really, really beneficial because you start learning so much about how this business works. But here's my final statement is this. And Scott, man, what a great session. I really appreciate you being here and also bringing in Calvin, creating huge value. I got to tell everybody, if you ever look at how businesses are sold, so I want you to see this. Generally speaking, individual real estate agent businesses, even teams, never sold. Generally, by the way, brokerages never actually sell, which is why EXP is the greatest brokerage on earth. And what I will tell you, though, is when you go to evaluate a business, what must be seen is all of the core metrics of the business. Otherwise, nobody's buying it, right? Nobody. Not a single person will push a bunch of money at a business where you're like, well, I think it's doing pretty well. How much money did we make last year? We made money. Okay, well, you clearly have no idea what's going on. So I'm going to run away from this as fast as possible because it stinks of poop. So I don't want to deal with it. And I will tell you, if you run your business that way, it'll be the kind of business that people are envious of. And if you're a solo agent, that's incredible. Drive profitability through the roof. By the way, you can get a huge profit margin if you're running a solo agent business. That's great. If you're going to run a leverage business, meaning like a team or a partnership, then you have to start thinking about accepting a lower profit position. But that means you must do what? Increase units and particularly volume and GCI in order to accommodate that. And there's ways to do that. That's what we do on most of our calls. But today, what I was feeling is the call to action is definitely you must know your numbers or you don't actually have a relationship with your business yet, right? Know your partner. If you're in a relationship, you have a husband, wife, partner, romantic, significant other. It's like, well, what do they like? Oh, I don't know. Well, what do they like to do? I don't know. Well, you're not going to do very well in that relationship. I promise. It's going to go really badly for you. Same thing in your business. How much volume did you do last year? I think about, by the way, if you've ever done this, if somebody asked you how many transactions you closed last year and what you did in your mind was pick your best month that you've ever had in your entire life and then multiplied by 12, don't do that ever again. You're lying to yourself and, by the way, the other person, but maintain your integrity, go figure out your numbers and start with like basic stuff, volume, units, GCI, and then start tracking the leading indicators and you'll get there. I love it. By the way, Scott did give his personal link and I would say use that. Let me post it again here so that everybody has access to that. If you're going to go check out CTE, do it through Scott's link so that he can get some street cred out there and build an even better business relationship with Calvin. Maybe we'll get him in again. And also, we're going to be here again next week, same time, same place for Core 90. We're going to be talking about the opportunity to master AI in our business. So I would encourage you guys to show up if you've already started using AI and you have some entry level on that. That's going to be great. We're going to go big on how to leverage that, how it's starting to create connections between websites. Scott, you're incredible. Thank you for being here today, and thanks for being such an awesome leader in the community, my man.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Woohoo!